Hey guys, it's Carla. First, I'd like to apologize because I forgot to turn my camera on, so I've already done some of this, but I'll go ahead and tell you what I've done. So I've painted my background with a blue and white, like a phthalo blue and white mixture, and dried it and sketched on my outline. And now, with watered down raw sienna, I'm scumbling in just kind of a ground, I guess. And I did put a coat of white on their hair. So I'm using just a round pointed synthetic brush for this whole painting. I'm only using this one brush, and I'm using a lot of watered down paint. So most of this, that's what I'm doing. So the color that I want the jacket to be, like the base color, I watered it down, and I'm just very loosely painting it in. And with this brush, I can use the tip of the brush for the small areas, and then the width of the brush for larger areas. So it works for the whole thing if you're not trying to be, like real precise, which I'm not. I want this to be very loose. So the color of his jacket, I used white, raw sienna, and raw umber. The other colors on my palette are red, green, and phthalo blue. So now I've rinsed my brush and I'm mixing up a color for her jacket. And you can use any colors you want in these clothes. But for this red, I mixed a little green with it just to kind of dull it down a little bit because I didn't want it real bright. But again, use whatever colors you want. The main thing is just to get everything filled in with the colors you want, and then we'll come back and put in shadows and highlights and all that. But for all of this, pretty much all of it, I am mixing water with the paint. So it's going to look really flat right now because it doesn't have the darks and the lights in there, but we just want to get these base colors in first. So now I'm mixing up a color for my skirt, and again, I want it green, but I want it dulled down, so I add a little bit of red to it. So both of these are a mixture of red and green, but sometimes heavy on the red and sometimes heavy on the green. So now I've rinsed my brush and I'm watering down some blue and brown for his pants. I do want to tell you the background was not watered down. It was just phthalo blue and white. I didn't mix it real well. I just kind of left it mottled and just roughly painted the background and dried it. Okay, now with just brown, without watering it down, I'm painting the cane with just the very tip of the brush. I'm just barely touching the canvas. If you press too hard with this brush, you'll get a big wide line, but if you'll just barely use the very tip, then you can get it nice and thin. But feel free to use other brushes. The reason I'm using this one is because it holds a lot of paint or water, and I knew that I would be using a lot of watered down paint, so this just works better for that. So I've mixed up a skin tone for her hand and legs. And now the shoes. Like I said, I'm just trying to get everything filled in with the colors that I want, or similar colors that I want. You know, you can always come back and kind of change the shade and all that later, so, but we just want to get everything filled in. And now with brown, thin brown, I'm just coming in and putting in some of my darker lines, shadows. And this is where we start defining things. Again, very loose, but these lines help define kind of how the wrinkles in the clothes are, and shadows and highlights on things. As usual, the traceable and the reference photo can be found on my Facebook page. I'll put a link in the description, and you can print those off for free. Or one woman told me that she didn't have a printer. So if you have if you have a tablet or iPad or something, you can pull up the picture on there and lay your paper on it and trace it that way. That's just another option if you don't have a printer. Or I imagine you could do it on the TV if you watch YouTube on your TV. I don't know, I've never tried that. I have traced on my iPad before though, and that works well if that's the size that you want. So now I'm just putting in some shadows. You can just look at the reference photo and see where the lights and darks are. And obviously, you can't see me rinsing my brush, but I do rinse my brush when I need to, so, you know, you'll know if you need to rinse it to go to a different color. Now this is a blue and brown mixture, and it makes almost a black, just a real dark navy blue. And so right here under his jacket, I want his pants to be darker where they're shaded. And down here where the two legs meet, you kind of want some definition there. So this leg, I want it to be darker. And then I'll come back later with highlights and highlight this leg. So now I want to cover up my pencil lines and brighten up the hair a little bit. Keep in mind when you trace these outlines, you don't want to trace it real dark because you might have a hard time covering it later. But you want it dark enough to be able to see what you're doing. So I'm just tapping in a little bit of gray in the hair. It doesn't look realistic if you just have white, even though they have white hair. You got to put some shadow colors in. Okay, so down here I want it really dark for their cast shadows. But I'm just very loosely scumbling it in. So I want it really dark right up against them, but I watered it down more for this as I get farther away to make it lighter. And I don't want any definite shape. I just want to create a shadow down there. So now I'm starting on some highlights. I think I still have to come back and do some of the darker colors, but I just kind of jump around in this whole painting because I'm either waiting on paint to dry or I see something that I missed or just whatever. So you can go back and forth with lights and darks and different shades. I think this painting would be really cool to paint for your aging parents or something. If you could kind of alter it to where maybe it looks like them from the back. Now I'm mixing up kind of an orange color with the raw sienna and the red. Orange makes a good highlight color for red, so keep that in mind. It's just it adds kind of a different flavor to it. So now I'm mixing a highlight color for his jacket. My first highlight color anyway. I do come back and brighten everything up later. But just be very loose with this. Don't try to make it picture perfect. It looks a lot better if it's just loose and almost almost animated. Now all I'm doing here is putting a glaze over the skin just to kind of change the tone a little bit. So now I'm starting to get a little bolder with my highlights. Just gradually building them up. Again, a little bit bolder. So I want it to be obvious that his pants are blue, but I still want to keep them fairly dark. So just right where the light might be hitting them, I'm just putting in some highlight and to separate the two legs down there at the bottom. Now the same way that I got bolder with my highlights, I'm also getting a little bolder with my darker shades, just here and there. Now I want the cast shadow to be really dark right up against them, so I'm putting another coat on that very loosely. So now with just plain white, I'm going to go through and put some really bold highlights, but when you're using just plain white, you got to be very selective where you put it and use it very sparingly. You really only want to use the pure white where the light would be hitting the most, or where you need it to be, you need some separation. But again, just use it very sparingly. And right here under the jacket, I want to darken that up some more. And that's it. And I hope you guys enjoyed this painting and maybe give it a try. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and God bless you.